Hi guys, today we'll be trying out the new magic mat from scrapbook.com, extended size with my Sizzix Big Shot. Hello and welcome to Debbie J's Crafting Corner. I'm Debbie and each week I show you how you can create awesome cards and other crafty projects. Because if I can make it, you can too. So if you'd like to see more tutorials and inspirational videos, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the little bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. So today we're going to be using my Big Kick. This is something that you guys really have not seen on my channel. I think I might have shown it like once or twice. I don't usually do it because it is a fairly large machine and it wobbles when I try to carry it around. So every time I try to move it, it does wind up kind of pieces fall off. Whether it is this or if I've got plates on there, whatever. Anyway, it's just irritating to me to do that. So I love my Gemini Junior, so I do all my die cutting at my desk with that. If I'm going to do some die cutting elsewhere, this has its own space about 20 feet away from me. Anyway, the real reason that we're here is because we're going to be trying out this guy. This one is the extended magic mat from scrapbook.com, and as you can tell, it does fit perfectly on that extended plate that I've got with my Big Kick. Big Kick, I picked this one up at Michael's 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I don't remember. I just know that I was able to find it on sale, which was awesome, and it was my very first die cutting machine. I found out later that the Big Kick is actually the same thing as the Big Shot. It just has a different name because it was the one done at Michael's. So what we're going to start off with, I do have some clear cutting mats, and we've got our magic mat, and I can already tell by just pushing the two in here that that's all I'm going to need to be able to cut with this, is just the two. I won't need a second plate. The second plate is being replaced by the magic mat. So I'm going to start off with, like I did in my last video where I was showing you with the Gemini Junior, I'm going to start off with cutting some cardstock, and we're going to be cutting out a few things out of some lower poundage and higher poundage, thicker and thinner cardstocks. So let me just go ahead and start off with cutting some of the AOC, the Accent Opaque White. This one I believe is the 80 pound. I'll have to check the package to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that it is 80 pound. I think with this brand they only have 80 pound and 110, and I was just trying it out. So far I really like it, is the 80 pound. I have not done a comparison cost-wise and or performance-wise on this yet, but so far it seems to be working like I like it. And I've got a little tag there to tell me that that one is my AOC. And then let me get out a sheet of the Recollections 300 pound. This is the stuff I usually use for card bases, but you know, you could make shaped cards or anything like that using this stuff with your die cutting machine, so you need to make sure that it will work with this machine. And then something I forgot to do on the other one that I thought, you know, that would be cool to find out and to experiment with, is whether or not the magic mat works well with cutting through foam. So I'm going to bring out some, I think it's like 3 mil. I don't know, it's not real thick foam, it's the regular thin foam. I'm not ready to experiment with the thick foam yet on this machine, mostly because I forgot what I was doing before with my old machine. I have not done the thick foam with my Gemini Junior. So anyway, we've got our 300 pound, and we've got our AOC 80 pound. And first thing we have come down is our magic mat. Goes right on the mat there. And I think I'm going to do, this time I'm going to do some of the paper hugs from the stamp market. These are just so cool. And this set has got both the hello and the paper hugs sentiments, thin and with a shadow. So I think I'm going to do, actually I'm going to do all 4 of these this time. Which means I'm not making a double, 2 cards out of 1 cutting, but I am going to be able to get at least 2 cards out of this too. So start off with some of my AOC. Just put that in place. Hello and paper hugs. And I don't know if I've got enough room for the last one. But you know what? This extended plate is big enough to put another piece of cardstock down on. So I'm going to just slide that down a little bit and put that other hello there. And now I'm just going to put my clear plate on top. Don't think it really matters which way, and it is a bit warped. This one's not as bad as it could be, but it should still work fine. And I'm going to just run that through. And not knock over my coffee. Like I said, I don't have enough room on this desk for this machine. Okay, let's see how that went. Start off with the hello. We turn it over. Looks like the cut was pretty good. And then when I take it off, looks like it's coming off pretty good as well. There are a couple of places that are a little bit stuck, and I think that may be because, here's the thing, I didn't have it shifted over enough. I had it over the edge, so it didn't cut as well down here at the bottom. So that's note to you, and note to me, note to self. Let's try this one. This one looks like everything should come out pretty good. And looking at it though, no, there's just not quite enough pressure there. So what does that mean? When we don't have enough pressure, we just add a shim. And I think I can probably salvage this. So I do not trust myself. You guys know I have always told you that if I put things through the die cutting machine, a lot of times they will slip and slide. And since it's already on the mat, I'm not as comfortable, I guess, putting it in place. So what I've done is I've got the cardstock down, and I'm just sliding this until it falls into place. So it is now in those grooves. Now putting them on in the grooves and then putting them on the mat, that is what messes me up. So I'll go ahead and tape that one down, and I'll do the same thing with this guy. And I'll put him over this way, so just slide it around till it fits in the grooves, and then grab a little bit of washi tape. This one needs to be the opposite way down. Okay. And what I use for shims are these. This is actually a piece of plastic that is from, Dollar Tree. It is part of one of their cutting boards, and I use them all the time. So I'm just going to use that as a shim. So I use it for lots of different things, but I found it works really great for this too. So go ahead and squeeze that on through. And as I mentioned in my last video, the one where we were using the Gemini Junior, the main reason that your plates warp is because of too much pressure. So the fact that this didn't have quite enough pressure is perfectly fine, because you know what? We could add a shim and that should fix the problem. So let's see how it did on this guy. And it looks from the back like everything is punched through pretty well. And then I just pull this off, and you can tell it did cut through fine, no problem. It's sticking there because of the washi tape. This one is for the letters, basically the fine line, and this was for the shadow. So the easiest way to adhere those two, which I won't show you right now, is basically to add adhesive on this one and then put this one on top. And I'll probably do that with this later. I'll put them back in the dies so that I can do that and make sure it's lined up right. So this one Looks like it still needs another run through just because it's not coming apart as easy. And that I know is just that it needs another shim. And these are things I would have needed to do anyway, even if I was not using this, the magic mat. I was always having to adjust as to what I needed to go through it. So now I've got two of the same. This one has been used quite a bit, you can tell. This one's brand new. So I'll go ahead and send this guy through again. Put those mats down, those, I'll also flip the mat. So I'm going to go ahead and just put that through again. And I am having to hand crank each time. I tend to go both directions every time I do a die cut. And this is easier when you're standing up, which is another reason why I don't use it on my desk over here. Okay, let's see how this one did this time. Looks like it's fallen to pieces. That's awesome. And it is stuck to that washi tape. But now we have our hello. So just like we did before on the others, I'm going to put it in place and just kind of get it to lock in place there. Add one shim. Because this one, I believe the only problem was that it was off the edge, off the end here, where it didn't need to be, and go ahead and run that baby through. And this does feel like it's pretty easy to go through, so it might actually need another shim. Not positive, but let's see how we did. Oh, it went through fine. So we've now got the letter portion to go along with that shadow. So the sentiments are cut out for a second card. Okay, so now that we know that it works fine with sentiments, even if it does need a little bit extra pressure in some cases, depends on the die and depends on, and the paper of course. And all of those were with the thinner paper. Let's see how it does on the thicker paper. So let me grab a piece of the heavyweight cardstock. And I'm trying to find a way to do it all on one, and it looks like I've got just barely enough if I squeeze them in. There we go. I am going to, because I know that it had a little, actually I'm not. I was going to go ahead and use a shim first time through, but I'm going to do it exactly the same way I did the other and just run it through without it, because it might just be that the cardstock wasn't thick enough. So let's go ahead and run that through. It is a little bit harder to turn, probably because of the thickness of the paper. Okay, that still goes through fine. And then let's see. Okay, this time it feels like it's just embossed, so there is not enough pressure. So this, I think it's just this specific die needs more pressure than what I'm providing it. So let me get it to lock back in place. There we go. And again, I'm going to put down some washi tape. So this one is in place like it's supposed to be. When I've done it without using the washi tape, almost every time the die shifts and I wind up with little slivers of cardstock just kind of floating around and not cutting out my die the way I want it to. Okay, so now I am going to put down both of my shims because that other one only did like a like an emboss. Okay, this one is having a little trouble going through, so let me go ahead and again, this is probably because I'm sitting down. It is always more difficult to do the cranking when you're sitting down. Okay. Okay, this one I think that might be good enough, so let me go ahead and take this off. Also have not been flipping the mat. So now you can already see that it is starting to warp a little, and that is specifically from the pressure of the machine. So let me go ahead and turn that over. And I've also noticed over the last few years that one of the things that causes things not to cut out quite right is because of basically the shape of the mat. If it is too warped in one area over another, and I don't know the specifics on which one works better, but if it's not flat, it could get too much pressure in one area and not enough in another. So that's one reason why you always want to try to use flat mats if you at all can. Okay, so this paper hug words looks good. Sometimes they're just a little difficult to get out. And then we've got this larger one, the background. I'm sorry, the shadow. The shadow of the paper hug. And the washi tape. So we've got the word of the hello. And this last piece is the only one that was having problems, which I think probably has to do with the die more than my Big Kick or the cutting mat. So it just looks like there's some places that, and I haven't used this one before. I mean, it's been sitting, it's one of those that's been sitting on my shelf for a long time, and I haven't gotten around to using it. I have used the paper hugs portion, but I hadn't actually used the hello portion. So I'm going to go back later on and cut that out. It's not going to be that difficult to use some scissors to finish it up. And sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. Sometimes everything comes out exactly perfect, and sometimes it doesn't. But so far, I'm still pleased with the way that this mat is performing. It's not quite as good as how it was on my Gemini Junior, but that may have more to do with the machine than anything else. Have I told you guys lately that I love my my Gemini Junior? And you're already seeing a couple of the reasons why. So next we're going to do, like we did before, and do a couple of backgrounds. So I'm going to start off with, this one is the layered hearts from Impression Obsession, and I think it is just lovely. One thing, it is a little bit warped because I have used it before, and I used it in a machine that did that warping. So I'm going to go ahead and just run it through my Big Kick. I'm going to go at an angle the way that they always recommend that you do, and I don't always do. And I'm going to run it through the first time without a shim. I am remembering to move it down some from the end here, because otherwise the end of it may not get as good of a cutting. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that through. And another good thing with this is it's long enough that I could run it through with, okay, this one needs more pressure, but I could run through more than one at a time. So I'm shifting it down a bit onto the, a little bit further down on my mat, and putting in a shim. And then we will get that one a shot. Does feel like there's more pressure, so that's good. And some of these may be ones that I just need to use my precision base plate with. But this one, it looks like it cut this time out fine with that one shim. And that looks just lovely. Now, one thing I did want to try out, because when I use a lot of times when I use a cover plate die, I decide to make it into a shaker. So what I was wondering is, could I cut through some foam with that? I think I mentioned that earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and give that one a shot here too, and use the same sandwich that I used to cut this one, because it's with that same die. I honestly think a lot of times the problems that you have a lot to do with either the machine or the die, and it has to do with the amount of pressure that goes through with that combination. So I'm going to go ahead and use that piece of orange foam there, and I am going to run it back and forth a few times. And when you're cutting foam, because it is squishy, it's foam, it does, even after it's cut through, you do have to give it a little bit of time for it to pop back into its original shape so that it's going to fit where you want it, because it doesn't always work. Okay, you can see all those cut lines on the inside. So let's see how it works when I try to get all the bits out. First, everything stayed in. Oh, that is actually really, really pretty. I could use that by itself. I'm going to have to give that technique a try in the future, because that actually looks pretty cool. But I can also see that these pieces are starting to come apart a little bit. And with foam, it's not hard to get the pieces to come apart usually. I have had a few in the past stick enough where I needed to use some scissors to cut that little bit of foam. This thing is in my way. I'm sorry, guys. I know I keep on going out of frame, and that is because I got but the stuff on my desk is too big. So I'm basically just taking all those little pieces of foam out. And since this is a more intricate die, it is going to take longer to get all of the pieces out like you want. And I am not going to sit here and do all of that on camera, but you can already tell that that is going to be really pretty, and then it goes behind this, so it's going to give it that little extra bit of dimension. And that's going to be another card. Okay, so we've done this one, and then I decided I wanted to also, actually, yes, that was done on both. Decided I wanted to do that more intricate one, that flower one we did. This one is from Pink Fresh Studios, the Geo Floral background. I wanted to do that one again. That was one that we did on my other video in the Gemini Junior. So I wanted to see how it worked out on this one. So I think what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to put it flat here so I can position the cardstock where I want it. Then I'm going to put my magic mat down. And then I'm going to add a shim, because I know that this one is going to give me, I think I'm going to actually add 2 shims, because I know that one's going to probably give me a little bit of trouble just because of how much trouble it gave me with my Gemini Junior. And then we're going to go ahead and run those through. Now the reason I put it on the platform and not on the mat, okay, this one's not going to work. You can already say I cannot move it any further, so it will not let me do two shims. So I will take one of those out. Okay, now it'll let me go through. That's good. The reason I put it down flat on there is because I wanted to be able to position my paper and die correctly. Now, it's probably not what the manufacturer wants you to do, because the imprint could possibly damage this, but I can already tell it looks like that cut through pretty well. So now it's time to test it out and see how it actually did. And I am getting a little bit of practice in using this guy, which having those little bristles poke through the holes seems to be a really good way to get the pieces out. And most of them look like they are already out, which is awesome. There's a few still stuck, but this looks really, really good. Okay, so just like last time, I'm going to go ahead and do some of these with my 300 pound. So this is my 300 pound cardstock. Again, I'm going to put my die down, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do 2 at once, like I said before you could do. So I'm going to go ahead and do both of these cover plates at the same time. So we've got the flowers, that floral one, and then we've got the hearts. And the hearts are the layered hearts are from Impression Obsession. So I'll go ahead and lay that down. Put my magic mat right on top. And this is a little bit harder. If I don't have it in there, it can fall over. So I'm having to try to balance everything also with this. Okay. And I'm going to use the shim on the part that I know has got the floral, because I know that it needs it the most. And I don't have a shim that is quite long enough to do the entire thing. Let me go ahead and crank that on through. Okay, and then let's take a look and see what we've got. Okay, I can already tell on the hearts that it didn't cut through quite enough. It didn't have enough pressure. But this one, although it did slide down a little bit, looks like it cut fine. So I'm going to go ahead and run this one through one more time with that shim. Okay, and my arm is telling me that I'm now... Oh, I put the shim in the wrong spot, but looks kind of cool. But I put the shim in the wrong spot. I basically put the shim in where the cutting mat was supposed to be. Oops. Okay, so let's go ahead and start taking all the bits and pieces out. This one has less of the pieces. And they're trying to stick to the die, so I probably need to run it through my machines with a fabric softener sheet. That usually helps helps with that. That was a trick that I remember seeing at least a couple of years ago from Jennifer McGuire. And there are some places on this one where it's still sticking, but again, these are going to be real easy to cut out if need be. Okay, so this one, get off the excess. Like I said, it slipped a little bit, so it did not go as straight as I would have preferred. So from what I can tell, it does cut much better through the thinner cardstock. The heavyweight cardstock, it struggles a bit more, and you do need more shims, and sometimes you need to go through it. You need to run it through a couple more times. So if I were to compare the machines, I think that I like my Gemini Junior more than I do my Sizzix, partially because I am now lazy and my arm is now tired just from the little bit of cranking that I had to do here. Other reason for that is that it seems to put more pressure, so things do tend to cut out a little bit better. But do I feel that I wasted my money with this machine? Absolutely not. At the time, this was basically the only thing I could justify spending the money on, and that was when I got it on sale. I I'm big on use what you have, buy what you want, but when you can get it at a really, really good price. I am pretty frugal when it comes to all of this. So this has been a really good machine for me for quite a while. I do like that that new plate there. It's going to help me when it comes to not having my dies warp and not having my plates warp. My dies warp because my plates are warped. I can't tell you how many of them have basically lost their shape, and I don't know if I can even cut with them anymore. They probably need to be gotten rid of, or either donated, but I don't know if I would want to donate them to anyone because of the shape that they're in. But overall, I do like this this cutting mat. It works out pretty good, but I like it better in my Gemini Junior than I do in this machine. This one is probably going to be one that I use for not so much for intricate dies. The intricates I think work better in my Gemini Junior, but this machine I think works well when it comes to bigger shape dies, especially when you need a bunch of something for some mass producing. You can line up a ton of them on this one. Like say you've got a lot of different sizes of stars or hearts or circles. You've got a lot of space here that you can work with. So that is going to be working out really, really well for me. I hope that this video was helpful for you, and be sure to come back again real soon. I've got a couple other die related videos coming up in the die machine and cutting plates and all of that coming up in the next week or so, so be sure to check back soon. And of course, I always have all of my inspirational and card making videos coming up too. You guys have a wonderful day, and thank you so much. And remember, anything you see on my channel, if I can make it, you can too. Have a good one.